minutes.
Attached to rental.
Shares and stock, and also like incentive performance bonuses. That's exactly right. And you see it. They're so much happier. I have a role to play. Think of how well I can be.
I guess some people, not the ones, but then you can see that's the culture of the company. But they have this antibacterial cereal. Exactly. That was like way back.
It's like straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I thought so too. And I did research on it, and they like the sweet places to take them. Mostly take them in hospitals. Almost so many people get 50% of people that go into hospitals get sick too. And that's because like everything's I'm like salivating. I'm like, I've been amazed.
Okay. Let's all find a seat. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming to Youth Salon in Jerusalem, a urban place. My name is Avi. I want to ask Okay, back to life. So, welcome to Youth Salon, and we are live on YouTube, by the way. So everyone say hello. Hey! Yes. Good. Okay. So anyone, first time in Youth Salon event? Okay, that's simple. So I'll explain. Basically, Youth Salon is a place where I organize an events once a month, usually in Tel Aviv, sometimes in other cities. Today. And there's once or twice a year conference all around user experience design, product design, and so forth. But the idea of creating these events, and the idea why I call it a salon, is because I want to create a place where we can create a discussion around what we hear and learn. Not just a presentation where we just hear it and then go home. We create a discussion, a salon discussion. So it will be like a friendly place where we can interact with the audience. Today, Didi Medina is here to say hello. Yes. So he's going to be our host. He's going to be the Chief Curiosity Officer today. and he's going to do the hosting and asking the questions and interacting with the speaker right after each presentation. Didi, you're on. Not yet. Okay.
Was that confusing just to me, or did anybody else?
Just one more second. I have a few more answers. So, because this event is also about finding not just like learning, also maybe perhaps networking. I'm wondering if anyone here in the audience is looking to hire a designer. Okay, you. What's your name? Stand up.
Daniel from Lightrix.
Lightrix, stand up so they can see you. So if you're looking for a job, Lightrix, over there, talk to him. What else? Didi.
We recruit for several companies in Israel, so just anything.
Okay, so if you're looking for a job, that's the guy in Jerusalem, right? All of Israel.
Tel Aviv.
In Tel Aviv as well. One more. Don't be shy. Oh, there it is. You want? No? Oh. So good. It's all right. So if you're looking for jobs, talk to these people. I also have a job board. If you are looking for a job, send me a resume. I also have the jobs at UXalon.com. If you're just looking to get offers, you're working senior positions here as well. Next month, or actually July 6th, Dave Maloof is coming to do a workshop on design operations, how to manage design teams at scale, how to be more effective, how to lead firms when it comes to design. It's going to be an interesting workshop. So if you're looking for, if this is relevant to you or to your boss, go to UXalon.com and please press that button over there. Also, if you have a phone, please take it out. I'd like to keep in touch with you, and if you have Instagram, look for UXalon on Instagram, because we do like stories and events, updates very quickly, and a lot of inspiration going on. So you look for UXalon on Instagram. It's also more people join, more motivation for me to do this. UXalon and fun. And okay, one more thing. I will make you famous. So everyone, raise your hands. I'm gonna post it on Instagram. Yes. Why is it not working? Okay. So. Failure. Okay, one more time. Now. Thank you. Okay, so Didi, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. All right. How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to UX Night. This is the first one in Jerusalem. Today, we're going to be going into the deep end of machine learning and AI. A very, very interesting topic that I find design is only starting to wrap their heads around. So hopefully, with the amazing speakers that we have today, we're going to learn a lot, and I'm very, very excited to see what we take out of it. First, I'd like to say thank you to Avi. Thank you so much for bringing this event to Jerusalem. I've been pushing him to do it for a while. And unlike a lot of people I talk to, he actually lives up to his word. So, thank you, Avi. Guys. Second, want to say thank you to Urban Place for hosting us. Thank you guys so much. This place is amazing. If anybody is too lazy to commute from their bus to their office, definitely hit them up. They got the perfect setup for that. The next thing is to the amazing, wonderful women that are about to get on the stage, and they're going to blow our minds about ML and AI. All right, so thank you guys so much. And lastly, thank you guys for being here. I'm so excited for you guys to be here. This event wouldn't really be an event without you guys, right? So thank you guys for coming. I am Didi Medina. I am a product design consultant, and I'm going to be your host. So without any further ado, let me invite the first speaker up to the stage. I do recommend you guys to keep your questions. We're going to be doing Q&A, as Avi mentioned. So if you have any questions, write them down. I will be taking one or two from the crowd if time permits. So if you have any, there's definitely a lot of questions around AI and ML as far as how that intersects with design. I definitely don't know enough about that topic, so write down your questions. I'd be happy to ask them. Ellie Vogel is our first speaker. I want to welcome her up to the stage. Ellie Vogel is sharing with us how to practically use ML while keeping an organic human behavior and emotions intact. Without any further ado, please help me welcome Ellie Vogel to the stage.
So, hey everyone, thanks so much for having me. I agree that it's really cool that we're doing this in Jerusalem because normally all these events are in Tel Aviv, but I know that there's a really great tech and startup scene out here in Jerusalem, so it's really great that we're able to share this with the Jerusalem UX community as well. So, today I'm going to be talking to you about practical machine learning for the human experience. But before we get too deep into this topic, I want to share a story with you about something that happened to me not too long ago. So I decided with a friend that we would grab a drink on a casual night. And the place we decided to go was a place I'm quite familiar with. Dizengoff Street. It's a pretty popular area out in Tel Aviv. So I took my normal route there, not thinking that I had to put my location into Google Maps because this is actually pretty close to where I live. So after my friend and I met, had a few laughs, gave each other a hug, and headed our separate ways, I got to my house. And about 2 minutes after I walked in the door, I got this. A notification from Google Maps asking me to rate Spice House, the bar that I had just been in. Now, wait a minute, I thought to myself, did I tell Google Maps that I was going to Spice House? How did it actually know that I was just there? And seriously, 2 minutes after I get home? I don't know. To me, this feels pretty creepy and intrusive. So, as I mentioned, my name's Ali, and my focus for the last few years has been machine learning products. So I'd actually designed a few of these at startups like WalkMe in Tel Aviv, and before that, I was working on an NLP tool at LinkedIn in San Francisco, hence the American accent. So we started a machine learning center out in Tel Aviv about a year and a half ago. And the idea behind it was to bring this powerful tool to travel. So currently at Booking, there's over 1,000 tests running on our site at any given moment. And although we're an Amsterdam-based company with over 17,000 employees globally, in Tel Aviv, we're 40 designers, product managers, data scientists, and developers working for you, our customer, to enable you to experience travel in a personalized way. So let's go back to the Google Maps example here and discuss what was really going on. So I understand my start and end point, and from the amount of time that I've stayed within my coordinates, it can be inferred that I had a drink or a couple at Spice House. So this is actually powered by machine learning. But now the question stands, is this actually beneficial for me as a user? So machine learning, UX design was actually once considered more of an art than an exact science. But now there's a transformation in the creation process that's a balancing act between designing for the human sensory, while algorithms and data enable us to make tailor-made digital experiences. Machine learning can help create user-centric products by personalizing experiences to the individuals that use them. This has enabled computers to understand what we say and what we see. Now, don't worry, there's going to be no equations here, but just so we're on the same page, essentially, we use machine learning to make predictions using historical and assumptive data with minimal human intervention. But wait a minute, aren't we all UXers here? So if there's minimal human intervention, what does this actually have to do with us? And why does it actually matter for designers? So as designers, we are user-centric, but the more data we get, the more we can start to team up with data scientists and create powerful models, well, the best models, that will in turn give our users the best user experience possible. And this would be in a perfect world. But unfortunately, this isn't always the case. So, as designers, historically, we've created products for most cases by catering to user personas and integrating this into our design and product development process. But now we've actually moved users on a one-to-one level. So we've all seen machine learning at play. Does anyone recognize this? Androids, anyone? It's using facial recognition, which leverages machine learning in order to create albums of your favorite friends, your selfies, or even your cat. In Facebook, that's funny. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, Facebook also uses machine learning on its feed to provide relevant content. Not updated. Okay, we'll talk about that later. And there are also many companies that have made entire businesses out of providing machine learning-centric products. So Spotify, for example, revolutionized the music industry from what originally were music libraries such as iTunes to actually creating a way for users to find and discover music based on their music preferences or even what they were feeling that day. And before Netflix started providing its own content, it built a service around providing relevant recommendations to users and letting them stream entertainment. But these product experiences can sometimes get weirdly personal. So Netflix even picked up on a breakup that I was going through a few months ago, likely by all the chick flicks that I was watching, and recommended this show to me. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Me? Crazy? Ouch. That was pretty hurtful. So, how do you personalize in a way that's well received and allows machines to account for user empathy? Connecting the human factor to machine learning is tricky. In order to get it right, UX and research play a big role in the user's reception. And of course, we have to ask the question, how far is too far? So machine learning can be tricky if not designed with caution. We've been able to quantify this in an oh-so-scientific way, which we can determine on a cool to creepy scale. So leading-edge one-to-one marketers, data scientists, and algorithm engineers are constantly listening for keywords, tracking interaction device, time and location, codifying behavior, sensing mood, recording preferences, and using that knowledge to hyper-personalize with content variation in the millions. The risk, however, is falling into the forbidden creepy zone, even if it's legal. In addition, we have to think about the level of sensitivity. Should we? User research and carefully considering the holistic experience of machine learning-based features are vital. And it's something that we're engaging with at Booking.com every day. So when we first started our office, we hired top data scientists and started heavily investing in machine learning technology. But we found a major gap and discovered what we were missing. So the thing is, we didn't exactly know what problems we were trying to solve when it came to personalization and what our users actually wanted to see. So as a reaction to this, in October 2018, Shalom, Tamir, and Jessica, a cross-functional team comprised of a user researcher, product manager, and UX designer, flew to California, or actually they flew to New York. California would have been cool. But they flew to New York in order to better understand the person, doing a mix of ethnographic research, forum discussions, diaries learned. So context, in this case, is key. What worked for Spotify and Netflix wouldn't necessarily work for us. Because travel is expensive, stakes are high. People attribute their personal growth to these monumental experiences. So unlike streaming a bad song or watching a mediocre, in addition, travel is emotional. And it's a very emotional product when it comes to actually planning a trip. So part of the search is actually imagine yourself there. What we found is that our users didn't want us to do all the work for them. They actually enjoyed comparing different hotels, looking at different destinations, lining things up one by one, getting suggestions from friends. But where we can actually come in is by helping them sort through all of the information that we have on our site and providing them the most relevant recommendations. And lastly, people wear different hats when they travel. So trips from one context to the next won't necessarily be the same. For instance, someone could stay at a hostel with their buddies if they go to a stag party, and the same person just a few weeks later would want to stay at a 5-star resort with their fiance. So we have to understand the purpose of the trip and not just the user's past behavior. And this is what we think about when we show our users recommendations. As we go through this process, we have to be hypersensitive and diligent about making sure we're heavily taking into consideration the voice of the user and embed research as an essential part of our process. So I'll give you an example of an experiment that we conducted on our site just a few months ago. And the purpose of this experiment is actually to surface up trending destinations. Now, at the time, I was working on a team that dealt with destination recommendations. So if any of you guys got bad recommendations for destinations from Booking, I'm not on that team anymore, so don't blame me. Now, this was a great experiment in theory because we looked to social media giants like Facebook and Google, and we saw that trending topics were really popular and the engagement was really high on these different types of features. So we thought, yeah, people will love to understand what's trending from their location, and this will be really successful. But unfortunately for us, and for me, because I was part of the team actually doing this, the engagement on this experiment was really low. And the reason for this is because we couldn't actually get the data we needed in order to give users the context as to why these destinations were trending. And that's essentially what they were looking for. And so what we learned from this is that users actually needed an explicit reason to understand the why in the context of where this recommendation is being presented. And if we couldn't provide this information, we'd lose their trust in the recommendation. And this is actually exactly what ended up happening. So actually what we found through further research is that when people travel, they don't necessarily want to be going where everyone else is going. They actually want to head to a place that is unique and not filled with other tourists. So instead, what we actually did to iterate on this is we worked with the data scientists to change the model in order to present what users were asking for, which were these new and unique destinations. And so in this context, it's actually really important to get feedback early on from the users. And if you don't always have the resources to do extensive research, this is how you can actually get this type of feedback directly on your site. So before we go into that, it's actually important to explain these two different categories of feedback that we found from our research. The functional, which is essentially your users telling, let me help you make this recommendation better, to the emotional. So users saying, I want to play a role in actually shaping this trip. So what we found from our research is that creating these two different feedback loops
contributes to the emotional investment that your users actually have in the content that you're providing from them. And across the different stages of the travel journey, participants repeatedly ask for features or opportunities to give their own input into the machine code. So sometimes this would manifest itself in the desire for interactive or visual questionnaires. Sometimes it was natural free text search. And sometimes it was something as simple as a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or even an X mark on a recommendation, signifying that that recommendation was no longer relevant for them. So in light of this insight, we created an experimentation line to actually get holistic feedback from our users. And this is an experiment we call Not Relevant for Me. You guys can probably understand why. So what we did is we added a simple X mark onto the recommendations that we were presenting to our users on desktop. And a swipe to dismiss feature, you guys might have seen this interaction on things like Gmail on mobile. And what we found is that users were not only highly engaging with the X button and the swipe feature, but they were actually booking more because they felt emotionally invested in the recommendations that we actually see. So, what are some best practices that we can take from these examples? And how can we practically integrate them into our products in order to make them relevant? Requires great data, great technology, and great sensitivity. With GDPR now in effect, most businesses are actually proactively disclosing their data collection and privacy practices. We need to give our users transparency and explain why we are collecting the data and what the benefit will be for them. And you guys will see that this is actually very beneficial to the user as well as the business. And so in order to do this, something that we do at Booking is we work really closely with our UX writers because this creates... because so as I was saying, we collaborate really closely with our UX writers because, again, we want something that we actually found to be a really good way to collect a notification, and it actually asks the user, do you want to continue to see this, or do you want to stop? And it allows them to understand. So, as I mentioned, it's our role to make sure that the data collection is as beneficial for the user as it is for the business. And we've seen at Booking.com how in doing so and following this philosophy, both the user and the business win. It does a great job of inserting small pieces of microcopy that allows the user to be part of the recommendation process. And on the other hand, it actually feeds the models so that the data scientists and the models can best improve what they're actually recommending to the user. So, as UXers, we probably hear this all the time. We need to communicate to our users. But the question is, how do we actually do this at scale? So, one thing that we found that actually Pinterest, as you can see here, there's a small menu that pops up that actually tells the user that they're seeing this board of puppies, and yes, this is actually from my Pinterest, because I'm following this person's board. And Netflix, as you guys might have seen, also used in order to recommend different destinations, and other companies, our users be in control of what data we are collecting and the type of information is actually adding a control panel to your product that allows users to control that what is the default, but it's actually something that I could toggle on and off depending on how much I actually wanted to contribute to that recommendation. By following different companies and different people in order to get the best content. A lot of you hear and have heard in many aspects of your life delivering the right message at the right time. And this is actually something that has the utmost sensitivity. So again, back to the Google Maps example, had I gotten that notification, not tipped the other way on the cool to creepy Gosh, no one. Okay, clearly I'm one of the only Americans in the crowd. So actually what Hopper is, and it uses machine learning in order to predict when you're tracking a certain flight, to tell you when the right time to buy is. And actually Hopper was something that was mentioned, that anytime she got a notification from Hopper, she would literally jump off of her treadmill and buy the flight right then and there. That's pretty powerful. So let's talk about what happens when things go terribly, terribly wrong. And how can we actually manage this? The stakes, you can see here that PayPal properly respond to someone when they got scammed. Now you can imagine the emotional connection that this person feels to PayPal now. And with all the other payment choices out there, I wonder what Brad Petit is going to do next time he wants to actually make a transaction. So this is why we need to create escape routes. So as UX designers, we are designing under uncertainty, which means that these escape routes are vital. Our machine models, no matter how good, are never going to be 100% accurate on anything. So we need to think about what we actually can do when these... So, as UXers, where can we shine? If there's anything I want you to get out of the talk today, it's this. We need to get involved in not only the tactical UI, but the entire product development, and have meaningful conversations about design of the machine models with our data science partners from the beginning. I'll be honest with you. In that experiment I showed you with trending destinations, I had no idea how the model worked, and I didn't even know why certain recommendations were being surfaced up. So when I had to explain to the team why it was performing really poorly, I really didn't even know how to explain myself. And now, with every experiment that I work on in the future, I'm constantly working with my data scientists to actually understand what the inputs are, what the outputs are. And even if I don't understand the complex math, it's something as designers is our responsibility, and I've also included some resources at the end in which we can start to understand machine learning, even at a high level, so that we can communicate in the best way and create the best products possible for our users. And lastly, instead of looking for the perfect solution up front, we need to think how we can learn for the best solution and how we can create flexible products that can mitigate any risks and bridge this gap between machine learning and real human experience. So, machine learning can be a powerful engine for UX designers to speak to our users on a powerful level and create seamless experiences. Even with the obvious pitfalls, we can mitigate these risks through user research, copy, and getting involved in the planning and designing from the beginning. So, I encourage every designer here with the power to use machine learning to do so, and think about our users and have empathy in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. You ready?
Ready.
All right, say so. All right, I got a couple of questions. I'm going to try to do maybe one or two myself, and then I'll take one from the crowd. So we got 5 minutes. Let's try to go through this. My first question is, if I had to take a senior product designer out of a product organization now that is not AI or ML oriented, drop them into one that is, what are the first pitfalls that they're going to fall into? Another way I can ask that is, like, when you first came into an environment that was ML and AI oriented, what were the skills that you had that really didn't help you get the job? And new skills you have?
In terms of actually designing products with machine learning,
one of the most important things to think about is the dynamic nature of the product that you're actually designing for. So because machine learning products are normally very back-end focused by nature, if you're working on a product, as we do with booking, with image optimization or voice, it wouldn't be obviously apparent at first how much design is actually involved in terms of the strategic end of designing the product, because you'd say, okay, it's, you know, we're designing for image optimization. But if you look at something like Netflix, where their homepage is constantly changing and new content is being pushed in variations of literally the millions, this is something that you have to think about as you're designing. So making your solution as flexible as possible is one of the most important things. And I think that's something that the user that's actually consuming it. So I think that that for me was a concept, flexible interface. And what I would recommend to a product designer that's actually going into a machine-oriented environment is actually, as I mentioned, to utilize certain tools that are currently available. So these are some of the resources I listed. I'm happy to send them out as well. And it just explains at a high level what machine learning actually does. And that'll give you a better understanding of how you can actually leverage it into your design process.
Cool. My next question is, how do you test for AI and ML? You spoke about how you do user research to get some insight as to kind of how it should behave. But traditionally, when we test actual experiences, we can do a split test, we can run our analytics and see like what's coming back. But for the most part, it works because we can hit statistical significance because enough people are seeing the same thing. When we talk about AI and ML, we're talking about very personal experiences, right? Which means the segmentation is in sometimes millions. How do you know that the entire AI is broken, or if...
Yeah, so I'll give you a funny example of something that happened to me today. One of the data scientists, not on my team, but on another team, asked to see my booking user ID in order to check his model. And I gave it to him, and he tested for hotels in Israel. And all that was coming up